Is it possible to get stronger without getting bulky? That's what one of our viewers asks today. You bet, Varun, I've got 4 tips to becoming stronger without putting on bulk. Now, certain exercises are better for one thing than for another. For instance, if you want big biceps, then you need to do some type of biceps curls. Strength that can be used for combat will be best developed utilizing full body movements and multi-joint exercises. This is going to teach us how to stabilize ourselves as we resist forces that we're pushing into, just like in sports, a fight, or even moving furniture. Isolation exercises are great for building muscle, but they don't have that same degree of full body integration. Now, exercise selection will be determined by what you have access to. Do you have dumbbells, barbells, kettlebells, just your own body weight? Now, since I don't know what you have access to, I'm going to provide some sample exercises, but certainly there are many great exercises that you can use to build strength. These are just a few of my favorites. You're going to want some type of a squat that allows you to go as low as possible so that you can develop strength through a full range of motion. ATG split squats, pistol squats, or kettlebell front squats are all fantastic options. Now, for upper body pulling strength, it is just hard to go wrong with a pull-up. I personally prefer a neutral grip most of the time, but a palms forward or palms away grip are both good options. You'll see a lot of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and Judo grapplers. They're known to wrap a towel over the pull-up bar and hold on to that towel as they do their pull-ups, and that helps them to build like really good, devastating grip to hold on to their opponent's gi. Now, while that does build some really strong grip, it's not going to allow you to get strong in your pulling muscles as much as you could, because your grip will always be your limiting factor. So if you want that grip strength, I would go ahead and do some of your pull-ups some of the time with that towel, but most of the time I would just hold on to normal pull-up handles. A simple dip belt allows you to add weight as you get stronger. Other options would be a bent over row or a one-arm row. Now, for upper body pushing strength, I think a 1 or 2 arm military press with either a kettlebell or dumbbells is amazing. Do these from a standing position so that you teach the rest of your body how to stabilize under that load. Now, optionally, you could do a clean and press, which just means that you add a clean between each one of your pressing repetitions. This will help you add a big pull from the floor. More on that in a moment. You could also do push-ups. Building up to a one-arm push-up is another great choice. The bench press is a fine option as long as you always have access to a really good spotter around for safety. Nothing's worse than lowering that bar, getting stuck, your spotter's off paying attention, looking at girls' butts. Not a bad hobby, just don't do it while you're spotting someone, and now you're pinned under the bar with a bar on your neck. Make sure you get a good spotter. Now, as mentioned before, we definitely want a big pull from the floor, as some people would call it, a hip hinge, and that is to train your posterior chain muscles. This gives you that strength to pick someone up or move them around and just really put a lot of force as you're pushing into someone. While many people's go-to exercise is a deadlift, I figure, why not build some explosive power at the same time? And for that, my preference is either a kettlebell swing, a clean, or a snatch. The kettlebell swing, especially with 2 bells, just really wants to throw you around. You have to learn how to absorb force, reverse it, and explode out of the bottom position. In my opinion, this is a lower skill exercise that transfers into sports and fighting super well. Not to mention you can get some cardio out of it if you get your reps high enough. Now, if you don't have access to a range of kettlebells, then the cleans or the snatches can actually be done with dumbbells. Just do them from the floor as opposed to from a swinging position. Now, barbell cleans, and especially barbell snatches, are very, very technical lifts, and they require specialized equipment, barbells that flex, plates that, bumper plates, and a gym that'll let you drop those weights. So, you might read a lot about barbell cleans and snatches, but honestly, for most of you, it's probably going to be a no-go. Now, the structure of your program is often what matters the most when it comes to building strength versus building muscle versus building endurance versus, well, just kind of wasting your time and not getting much done. The three things we want to pay attention to are repetition ranges, total weekly training volume, and repetitions in reserve, otherwise known as RIR. When training for strength, ideally, most of the time, you want to train in the 3 to 7 rep range. Any lower than that, and you're a little too close to your 1 rep max, which frankly can just burn you out and lead to injuries. Now, training much over 7 repetitions is going to put you in the range where you're more likely to build muscle and not quite as much strength. Now, when it comes to putting on slabs of muscle, volume is key. So if you're wanting to avoid putting on a bunch of muscle, you want to minimize your volume as much as possible. Now, we will define volume as your total weekly number of working sets per muscle group. So let's say you're doing the military press. You might do 2 warm-up sets and 2 work sets twice per week. That's a total of 4 working sets. Now, volumes as low as 1 set per week can actually be effective for building strength, at least for a while. Eventually, you might need to add some more sets. But if you really want to avoid muscle, I would keep your weekly volume to no more than, say, 6 sets per week per muscle at the most. Now, finally, we come to repetitions in reserve, or RIR for short. RIR simply states how many more reps could you have done. Let's say, for example, that you can do 10 push-ups max. If you tried for that 11th repetition, you would fail. If you did 10 repetitions, then that's going to be an RIR of 0 because you had 0 reps in reserve. If you stopped at 9, your RIR would be 1. And if you stopped at 8, you would have an RIR of 2. Make sense? So training to failure has been shown actually to be counterproductive for strength training. In fact, your best progress will probably come from stopping at 2 to 3 RIR most of the time. By the way, 2 to 3 RIR isn't easy. Those are still hard reps, but they should be technically clean reps, and that is critical for strength training. Practicing high quality reps with increasing weight over time, a long period of time, years, is how you get strong. Now look, you could have the best program in the world, but if you don't make progress, you won't become stronger. And things that are not tracked rarely make progress. So keep a training journal. Write down the exercises, the weights you're using, and how many reps you get on each of your sets. Then the next workout, you will have a goal to beat. Now, there are real fancy apps out there that you can get, but personally, I just use the good old cheap notepad. I write down my sets and my reps. Come in the next time, turn the page. Oh, that's what I did last time. Let me try to get 1 more rep this time. Now, if your goal is to not get bulky, then you need to eat like a lean person, not a big person. Now, I don't have time to get into a lot of diet here, so let's keep it real simple. If you want to be bigger, eat more. If you want to be smaller, eat less. If you want to stay the same, eat the same way you're eating right now. I will say this, To support your training progress and of course your health, I would prioritize eating sufficient protein first and foremost. Somewhere around 0.8 grams of protein per pound of ideal body weight is a good start. I weigh 210 pounds. That means I need to get about 168 grams of protein per day spread across my meals. After that, make sure you eat plenty of fruits, veggies, and some carbs to give you the energy that you need to exercise. Now, I'd say eat healthy fats, but let's be honest, most people get plenty of fat in their diet. Okay, here's a sample program that has you strength training 2 days per week, which should carry you for a very long time. Mondays and Thursdays, you will perform the following exercises: a kettlebell military press, pull-ups, ATG split squats, and dead cleans from the floor with either kettlebells or dumbbells. You will perform 2 warm-up sets, followed by 2 working sets for each exercise. This is a minimalist program after all. We're trying to keep the volume low, so we put on as little muscle as possible. For the warm-up sets, you're just practicing excellent technique while warming up your muscles and connective tissues. Your first warm-up set should be with a weight that feels moderate compared to your work sets. Don't overthink it. Your second warm-up set should be just a little bit lower than your working set. And that set is to prep your body for that heavier weight. First set, pump some blood, work your technique. Second warm-up set is there to get you ready for that heavier weight. Now, both of your work sets are going to be taken to 2 to 3 RIR. So you could have done 2 to 3 reps more, but you're choosing to stop. Your next workout, you will add a rep to either of those sets. Hopefully you can add a rep to both of those sets. If you repeat that every workout, then you're going to quickly surpass that 7 rep range that we talked about earlier. And as soon as you get to 8 reps, simply go up in weight. How much do you increase the weight? Increase it to a point where you can now get 4 reps with about 2 to 3 RIR. This is called a double progression model, and it will carry you for a good long time. Now, one important note: if you choose to do kettlebell swings or swing cleans or swing snatches as opposed to the dead cleans off the floor or dead snatches off the floor, then you're going to want to up that rep range. Those ballistic exercises where you're swinging back and forth, they work a little different than normal ones in terms of how it affects your body. So I would generally shoot for maybe 10 to 20 reps per set on those. Now you might be thinking, Brian, what about abs? What about fill in the blank? Remember, this is a minimalist program. The exercises that I have outlined will train most of your entire body to some capacity. Your abs are working to stabilize you on literally every exercise on this list. If you want specific training for another part of your body, make sure you have a good reason for it. Now, personally in my own training, I also include neck training, wrist and grip strengthening, and I also work on my spine in odd positions just to help me become very kind of injury resilient. And I use very low volume for all of those, sometimes even just 1 or 2 work sets per week. As long as I'm making progress, I'm happy. The important thing for most of you is just get consistent following a solid full body strengthening program. Once you've been consistent for 4 to 6 months where you rarely miss any workouts, you can now think about adding other assistance exercises. You know, something for your abs, maybe some neck training, maybe some grip training, if you even need grip. Honestly, your grip is getting worked pretty darn good on all of these exercises. So while there are many great strength programs out there that will keep you from getting bulky, the principles really are few and simple. Number 1, pick good exercises that train your full body strength and explosiveness. Number 2, always prioritize high quality technique. Never get sloppy in order to make a rep. Because if you do, you really aren't getting stronger. You're just figuring out a way to make that weight go up. And why not just have someone else lift it up for you at that point? I mean, if you're changing your technique, you're not actually doing strength training anymore. Keep the reps low, around 3 to 7. Keep the volume low. Keep the reps in reserve to about 2 to 3. You really shouldn't be training to failure hardly ever with effective strength training. Keep a training journal to ensure that you're making progress. And finally, eat to stay lean. While today I follow an exercise program primarily to put on muscle and keep my joints as healthy as possible, I actually started my exercise career doing strength work while trying to avoid putting on muscle. And honestly, as I approach 50 years old, I wish I would have focused more on building muscle when I was younger, but to each their own. If you want some good pre-built programs for strength work that minimize putting on size, I recommend books by Pavel Tsatsouline. He has programs that use whatever you have access to. Kettlebells, barbells, even just your body weight. If you like this video, the algorithm thinks you will like this one right here. Where'd that come from? And the algorithm is inside of your very mind. It knows you better than you do, and it's always right. See you next time.